Congressman Comer, thank you so much for sitting down with me today.
Well, thank you for having me.
So this week, Kentucky is getting a new governor. We just had a governor's race, and Andy Beshear will be sworn in this week as governor. So you've been in the legislature before with a Democratic governor, his father actually.
Right.
So, but this time, Andy Beshear is the lone Democrat in Frankfort. So how do you expect policy to kind of pan out over the next 4 years?
Well, I served under two Democrat governors, Beshear and Patton, but Andy Beshear will realize that the Republicans have a supermajority in the House and the Senate, so he's going to have to be bipartisan. I think you've seen signs that he's probably accepted that already. Just by the fact that he appointed Daniel Cameron Attorney General. He didn't have to do that. That was a very nice gesture, very classy. So I think he understands that he's not going to be able to pass any of his agenda without Republican support.
So you ran for governor 4 years ago, and it was a very close Republican primary.
83 votes or something.
83 votes. So, but do you want to run again in 2023? Is that something that's maybe on your radar?
Well, you know, my heart's in Kentucky, but I'm very blessed to be in Washington. Really, in a short 3-year time period, have accumulated a lot of seniority because there's been a lot of turnover in Washington. So things are going well for me in Washington. And I think we need to give Beshear a chance, see what kind of governor he is. You know, you can't declare your candidacy without seeing what kind of governor Beshear becomes. I think he's going to have an opportunity right off the bat to be popular the first year just because honestly, Bevin was never popular. Andy Beshear will be a nice guy, and for that, the media, he'll be transparent with the media, so they're going to really write nice things about him. So I predict that Beshear will be popular the first year he's in office, but eventually the economy will not be as strong as it is now. You know, we're in a Chamber of Commerce building. We know the economy's cyclical. Eventually there'll be a downturn in the economy, and we'll see what type of policy solutions he has to move Kentucky forward. And we've got a lot of problems in Kentucky. Everyone knows the pension is grossly underfunded, but we also lose a lot of ground to Tennessee. I represent Southern Kentucky on the Tennessee border, and I can tell you every day we have prominent people that are relocating their residency to Tennessee to avoid the high state income tax. We have a lot of businesses that are moving their corporate headquarters still to Tennessee because they have a better tax policy. They have a lot of more business-friendly types of policy there in Tennessee. So I would like to see this governor and the legislature work closely with the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce to continue to pass pro-business initiatives. We've had great success in the last 4 years. Bevin's agenda was the right agenda to move Kentucky forward. So hopefully Beshear will be able to accomplish some things, and I certainly hope for the best for Kentucky, but we'll see how he governs and go from there.
Absolutely. So one of the big issues here in Kentucky in recent years, and part of the reason that Beshear won the election, deals with education. You're on the Education and Labor Committee in Washington. So what are some of the things at the national level that are being discussed to improve education and the workforce?
Well, two big issues that are talked about almost on a daily basis in Washington is obviously the student loan debt issue, but also workforce development. With respect to workforce development, I know I just got briefed on some great things the Kentucky Chamber is doing to help develop our workforce. You know, the biggest complaint I hear from employers in Kentucky is they can't find enough workers right now. Businesses would continue to take advantage of this great economy by investing additional capital, growing and expanding their businesses if they could find additional workers. And the mindset right now in Kentucky is that you just can't find enough workers to justify that additional capital investment. So we have to focus on workforce development. That's something that both parties have agreement on in Washington. Democrats and Republicans both have heard the calls from the business community that they can't find enough skilled workers right now. The challenge in Washington is you have a lot of the Democrats in Washington, they want to try to develop the workforce through labor unions. The Republicans want to do apprenticeships, which I think is what the Chamber kind of advocated, to work with your existing university structures, work with existing employers to try to develop a curriculum that meets the needs of the industry right now. So hopefully we can get some type of consensus on workforce development to try to be able to develop the next generation of workers in America. And with respect to student loan debt, you know, you can't just do the Bernie Sanders plan and the Ocasio-Cortez plan and just wipe it out. But I do think that we have to look at the universities and the value of a regular four-year degree today. I think a lot of the business communities are questioning a lot of degree programs that universities have, and questioning the amount of money that students are having to spend to get a degree that many times doesn't have a lot of value in the marketplace. So these are the issues that we're discussing with respect to workforce development and student loan debt in Washington.
So one of the biggest issues that's often talked about in Washington, especially recently, is the United States, Mexico, Canada agreement. We're still waiting on the House to take a vote on that.
Yeah.
So do you expect that the House will take a vote on that? And if they don't, then what happens?
I'm on the USMCA whip team. That there are about 15 members of Congress that have been trying to get a consensus deal on the USMCA to have a vote on it for Congress to ratify it. We should have done this in July. It's 100% political why we haven't. Pelosi has just been sitting on that USMCA vote. It's created a lot of uncertainty in the business community because we have a lot of manufacturers in Kentucky that manufacture the product in Kentucky, but they get the raw materials from Canada or Mexico. So not passing USMCA would significantly disrupt the supply chain for a lot of manufacturers in Kentucky. It significantly disrupts the agriculture industry, which is huge in Kentucky, especially in my congressional district. So we have to pass USMCA. Just last week, Speaker Pelosi implied to us that she was willing to bring the USMCA to a floor vote. I think she probably will right before Christmas, because I think that this impeachment process has been so controversial for Pelosi and the House majority that she wants to be able to say, well, look, we did this impeachment, but we can govern too, so we passed the USMCA, which should have been passed in July. The votes are there. It'll pass by an overwhelming majority in the House, and the Senate will quickly pass to ratify it, and the President will sign it into law. So hopefully we'll get a vote on that in the next couple of weeks.
And trade talks with China are also a huge thing for Kentucky businesses. So how do you feel that those discussions are impacting Kentucky businesses?
Well, they're having a huge impact on Kentucky business, and unfortunately a negative impact. I think that if you look at the whole China situation, we need to negotiate a deal with China. China's been cheating for years. They manipulate their currency, which is a big deal. They also have been engaged in dumping on the foreign market, which has hurt a lot of industries in America. So the reason no president has ever tried to tackle this China deal is because they knew it would be hard. China's a lot bigger than the United States, and China's in a significantly better financial position than the United States. When you're talking about a country with a $21 trillion debt, which is what we have in America, we're kind of at a huge disadvantage. So the president's been engaged in negotiations. He's had his trade representatives trying to negotiate a deal with China, which doesn't focus on necessarily, if you sell us this much, you have to buy this much from us. That's not what they're negotiating. They're negotiating a deal to address the currency manipulation situation and the dumping situation. Those are the two priorities of the trade agreement. That'll have respect for our intellectual property and our patents and things like that. But I don't think a lot of progress has been made. You know, occasionally they'll tweet out something that there's been an agreement for China to buy more poultry, for example, and that's a big deal. Poultry is the largest agriculture crop in Kentucky. All 5 poultry processors in Kentucky are in my congressional district, so that was a big deal for my district. But you know, the manufacturing is really taking a hit right now. A lot of our manufacturers in Kentucky are getting disgruntled and irritated. I feel that Pelosi's decision to, number one, delay the USMCA vote hurt our standing with China. I believe that her decision to do an impeachment inquiry that everyone knows will never pass the Senate has also hurt the president's leverage with China right now. So I think that a lot of things that no one would have foreseen happening when the president first decided to try to negotiate a deal with China, I don't think anyone would have foreseen how bad the Democrat House majority would have reacted in the way they're governing in the House. But aside from all that, I'm optimistic that we'll get a deal. I just don't think it'll be before the November of 2020 elections.
Now, on a more positive note, you and Senator McConnell recently secured some federal funds for the Paducah Riverfront Infrastructure Project. So what is that going to have in terms of an impact on the area, and will it have any impact on transportation?
It is going to have a positive impact, and I really enjoy working with Senator McConnell in Washington. We're very blessed to have him in that position. He definitely sets the agenda in Washington and has the ability to help us access funds like we did with the build grant for Paducah. Paducah's an exciting city. It's the economic engine of my congressional district. They have a tremendous chamber there in Paducah, but Paducah's becoming a destination city. You know, their downtown area is unique to any community in Kentucky other than maybe Louisville. They have just a really artsy scene downtown. There are a lot of places, unique retail shops, businesses, micro hotels, little beds and breakfasts that I think a lot of people want to see. And the future of travel is on the rivers now. You see everybody's taking a cruise to the Caribbean. We've all done that. And I think the next frontier for leisure travel is along the river. So Paducah's positioning itself with this bill grant that Senator McConnell and I were able to secure for Paducah to develop the riverfront to where those riverboats going up and down the river will have better access to port and unload their passengers to where they can visit Paducah, hopefully stay the night and enjoy the tremendous restaurant scene, the tremendous nightlife scene that we have in Paducah, and the really unique artsy scene that Paducah's been able to develop over the years. So I think this build grant's going to really help propel Paducah to the next level. They have a really nice hotel downtown, in talks to build another nice hotel to go along with all the boutique hotels downtown. So if you haven't been to Paducah, you definitely want to visit Paducah very soon. And hopefully this build grant will help increase tourism to Paducah.
So to wrap everything up, is there anything that you and I have not covered that you think that Kentuckians need to know that's happening at the federal level?
Well, I think that there are a lot of things that are being debated in Washington besides impeachment. If you turn on TV right now, it's all about impeachment because that's what I guess generate the ratings. We're trying desperately to get an agreement to do some type of prescription drug reform, which focuses on drugs like insulin that a lot of people have that really haven't changed a lot over the years. We're trying to get control of that. We're trying to pass legislation and work with the Trump administration to focus on welfare reform, foreign aid reform. I mean, we continue to spend more than we take in at the federal level, and that's a problem. So there are a lot of things that I think are going to happen. I've worked very hard in a bipartisan way to do important issues that pertain to families, like the Child Abuse and Prevention Treatment Act. We focused on school nutrition programs that benefit all 120 counties in Kentucky. So I think there are some good things that are happening in Washington, but unfortunately it's being drowned out by the impeachment drama.